All right, welcome to another edition of the Business of Social podcast, powered by STN Digital. I'm David Brickley, and on the Business of Social, we examine the digital marketing industry and analyze how brands successfully increase their ad revenue and brand affinity through cutting-edge content on social. In short, we talk to the experts so you're able to keep your thumb on the pulse of the ever-changing landscape of social and digital media. He's been featured on Fast Company, Forbes, Time, and Mashable, and is considered one of the Snapchat influencer godfathers, in my opinion, or at least a pioneer. He was also recently named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 list for marketing and advertising. A super cool dude that I was able to meet recently. I feel like he has a lot of valuable knowledge to drop on us today. Shaun McBride, Shonduras, what's going on, man?
Hi, how are you? I like
How's
that
everything
intro.
going?
That was official. I feel like a professional wrestler right now.
There you go. Right on.
Yeah.
I'm glad it pumped you up. You actually tweeted, I'll throw you kind of a curveball, but you tweeted 12 hours ago that was the busiest day of your life. So I'm interested to see how it all went down.
Yeah, I don't know if I said busiest day or week, but this whole week has been absolutely insane. We just got so much going on. So I just showed you kind of like the warehouse area I'm in right now.
Yep.
We're building out our offices. We have 4 different businesses that are all running out of this warehouse right now. Everything
That's
from
awesome, man.
Shonduras, my brand, where we do content and engagement and all that kind of stuff. And then Space Station Gaming. So that's an esports org that I own, where I guess professional esports video game players play
That's
video
awesome,
games,
man.
and there's tournaments all over the world. And then we also have Space Station integrations. So we help do integrations and do social media content, and we kind of line up a brand with an influencer and figure out a creative way to tell that brand's story and make it fun.
That's awesome, man. I want to dig into all that because what you've
Let's
been
go.
able to do as far as parlay your social media success into all these different ventures is super inspiring, very entrepreneurial. But I do want to go back a little bit for our audience and talk about that first business venture of owning the skate shop, which was one of your childhood dreams. But that kind of started everything off for you. It seemed like that gave you the epiphany to kind of do what you want to do.
To be honest, the skate shop was awesome, and that was definitely a childhood dream to run it. But I mean, I'll tell you the coolest thing about running a skate shop, you just sit there and watch skate videos all day. It's awesome. But I'll tell you the worst part about running a skate shop is you just sit there and watch skate videos all day. You don't really make sales. So that was cool. It was a learning experience. But the epiphany kind of came when I wanted to shift and have the skateboard sales go online, because I was losing a lot of business to online. And so I was going to sell this product online. And then as I got my online built out, I realized 2 things. One, how am I going to get Google SEO and all that confusing stuff and compete against other people? And then the other one is just skateboards and snowboards. It's still a hard demographic. It's young kids that don't have a ton of money. And it's also, if you want to buy in bulk to make good margins, where are you going to put a bunch of skateboards and snowboards? So I kind of restructured the whole business plan, like really dug into it, got a little bit more strategic with it. And I ended up saying like, okay, I'm going to find my customers on Facebook, because Facebook was really crushing it. And this was, we all know that exact moment when moms took over Facebook, right?
Well, what year was this? Just to give us some background.
Shoot, I'll just take a stab in the dark here. This was 2015, 14 maybe.
Gotcha.
No, maybe even earlier. I don't even know.
And how old are you at this point?
So I was just graduating from college. I was maybe 24, 25 or something.
That's awesome.
I was running the skate shop, and then I was like, I got to do this jewelry boutique thing. So found my demographic on Facebook. Moms had just taken it over. What do moms like to buy that's way easier to ship and buy in bulk than snowboards is jewelry. So I created a jewelry business online, ran it through Facebook, absolutely exploded. That's where I learned about engagement and building a fan base and building a business with my fans, like having them direct the business in the direction it should go. And I'd say that's where everything clicked, and I was like, okay, social media, digital, like this
thing works.
Yep.
And 2014, Facebook's ad platform isn't even live, so you're purely going organic with a lot of this stuff.
This is actually a good way that we could go back and track exactly what time it was, but it was this experiment that Facebook did right after I launched the jewelry boutique, where it said buy it now, and you could click a button, like you could do something, and then there was like a little button where it said buy it now that just clicked, and it took you right to a cart. And they only ran that for about 6 months. And that was the 6 months that I had started this jewelry business. So just good timing, slayed it, and then wanted to keep going in that direction and use that skill set, but maybe not involving jewelry. I mean, at the time I was running it under my wife's name because a little creepy, like skater guy running a jewelry business out the back, like, hey ladies, what's up? Got some new necklaces. Like,
that's funny.
Definitely a bit creepy. So
I
wanted to shift directions, but keep the same business model. And that's where I got into Snapchat.
And how, so the jewelry business specifically, were you able to scale that? Did you have any employees, or was that just like a full-time job that was able to pay your bills and put food on the table? And how successful did you get on that?
Oh, I scaled that huge. I mean, I hired my sisters and paid them in pizza. That was next level strategies right there. No, I mean, originally it was just supposed to be an experiment to learn online, and I was just gonna ship the jewelry out of the back of the skate shop. We had a shipping thing because we did sell online a little bit, and after about a week, I was like, dude, I don't even have time to do this. Like, when am I going to watch my skate videos and do nothing? Like, this is taking up all my time, right? And so started working with my sisters. I legitimately had them come and help ship jewelry, paid them in pizza. And then after about 2 or 3 weeks, I know it seems super fast, but I guess I just hit the algorithm right in Facebook and that buy it now thing. And by 3 to 4 weeks out, I had to get a business partner who brought a warehouse and employees. And I just drop shipped all the jewelry there. And then he took care of everything. So we just kind of went 50-50 on it, and I did the branding and the social and basically put everything into the business, and then he just shot everything out of the business to the customers. And
very cool.
We ran that together probably about 6 months. Again, perfect timing. I hit the buy it now thing, and then it was about a month into it that it was Black Friday. What is that? Black Friday? Cyber Monday? Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yep.
Yeah, all those.
The day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly. All those buy stuff holidays, and we just slated on those. And I was like, wow, this is cool. This is my first successful business I've built, and I kind of got the bug, and I'm like, let's do it again, but in a less creepy way, not jewelry.
So it seems like, that really got you fired up. Like, wow, this social media thing, I can really do damage with my kind of geeking out over the process, but also being able to create those audiences. So when do you choose? Do you go to Snapchat first? Is that when you kind of decide to build your personal brand and kind of build your audience around that?
So after that, I was still trying to figure out how I wanted to use social media to build a business. And in the meantime, I got an opportunity to work as a skateboard, snowboard, rep for the Rocky Mountain region. So I was traveling around doing cool stuff. I got to ride with pro snowboarders, jump out of helicopters, like backstage at concerts. And my sisters were like the same pizza sisters, they were like, yo, you're doing all this cool stuff. Like, I think I was backstage at Katy Perry, like good Katy Perry, like original Katy Perry, and my sister's like, oh, send us Snapchats. Is like Napple chats, like what is this? And like they showed me what the app was, and this is like early days, like only a couple of the cool kids use Snapchat really, and so like I got on early and learned how to use it, and I was like, wow, there's so much engagement and one-to-one interaction, and it feels like more genuine, not just like I post here, you guys comment down here. It's like we're on the same level going back and forth. I was like, honestly, like, I know Facebook worked well, but I could see this being like the next Vine. Vine at that time was just exploding, but Vine wasn't my style. It was very like tongue in cheek, like just slapstick humor, kind of I didn't vibe with it very well. So I felt like maybe this could be the next Vine, but it's more about storytelling and creativity, and you could doodle. And so I was like, yep, I think I'm going to turn this into a business. So because I had this cool job and lifestyle, I was able to portray that onto my Snapchat. And then from there, a lot of people think I either got lucky, or if you just do something enough, if I post enough YouTube videos, I'll make it, just like all the big YouTubers. And that is true. You got to be resilient and just like keep grinding.
Consistent.
Yeah, consistent. But you could be consistent forever and still not be successful if you don't do things a little bit unique. Add a little strategy to everything you do, And so at that point, it was like, well, if I really want to make it work on Snapchat, I need to run it like a business. I need to get featured on the internet. I need to have connections. I need to do collaborations, like all this stuff. So just went heads down on turning Snapchat into a business. And I had a ton of other friends who did amazing Snapchats. I don't think I was the best at Snapchat. I just think I was the only person who ran it like a business. And that's why my name kind of got filtered and rose to the top.
That was going to be my next question, because especially in the early days, Snapchat, unless you had the QR code, there's no way I can stumble across your content.
We're talking before QR codes, bro. That's when I blew up. Like, I had to like literally tell people how to spell my name and hope they
exactly.
Yeah.
So your strategy there was I need to obviously word of mouth, but also I'm going to try to get into the trades and get into different media outlets so people want to follow
Exactly.
me. Okay.
So, I mean, my stories are going to disappear. I could make the most bomb Snapchat ever, and the same amount of people would view it, and then it would be gone. Like, it couldn't go viral or get more views. It couldn't get shared necessarily. So I had a couple like art pieces go viral on Reddit. And so that's like, okay, the internet is how I can fuel this to grow bigger. So then I started reaching out to people to get my snaps featured. And I mean, at this point, Snapchat was just too cool and hipster to even have a website. So if you Google search Snapchat, nothing came up. I was like, well, I should be the one that comes up, and went heads down for 3 months, just writing to every publication like, hey, I do this cool thing like this, that, and the other. And eventually got in Forbes, Time, Mashable, BuzzFeed, Business Insider, like DigiDay, you name it, I was there. And then once Snapchat really blew up and there were creators looking to get into it and there were brands looking to use it to tell their story, like I was the guy. And it was a mixture of, you got to make your own luck. Like I worked really hard to get in that position and be the top dog, but then I got lucky that Snapchat did take off and people were interested in it. So it's a combination.
So was that your ultimate goal? Because like you mentioned, everybody says if you can get to the platform first, you're able to really capitalize the most. Instead of if you try to open an Instagram account today, it's gonna be very difficult for you to get 17 million followers type deal. So did you have that idea in the first place? Like, let me use distribution, Forbes and Facebook and these other distribution outlets to get me followers so I can put myself in a position to work with brands? Was that always the ultimate goal?
Day one. I remember as I was being on skateboard, snowboard rep kind of thing and trying to figure out social media, I read about Viners and YouTubers, and there's some awesome YouTubers here in Utah that I met, like Devin Supertramp, and I was reading about how he works with brands, creating videos and making this cool thing and telling the brand story. And I was like, I would love to do that, but I had that same feeling like, oh, dude, Devin already has 500,000 on YouTube. I could never do that. Like, I got to find the next thing. So luckily I found Snapchat and everything worked out, but there's also a moral in there that's like, back then, 5 years ago, I was like, YouTube, there's already people that have 500,000. I'll never catch that.
You almost should have did it,
it's like nobody even was at 1 million subscribers yet. Like 4 years later, I decided to tackle YouTube, and luckily it worked and I hit 1 million subscribers. But it's just like, had I tackled YouTube 4 years ago, would that have even been more successful than Snapchat? Like, no regrets because everything's worked out great, but just good to know that like you're never too late to anything. Except for Snapchat. It's too late for Snapchat now.
I want to get into that too. But yeah, so I remember, I mean, like you mentioned, you were one of the first on Snap. And I think I came across an article like you were the top 10 to follow, which I'm sure was part of your PR campaign. And I followed you. So give me an example. I know it's tough to say like how many followers. I guess you could say that. But just your average chapter views when Snapchat's algorithm was at its peak. So kind of what were those numbers looking like?
Yeah, so I remember my very first trip to New York City to try and work with a brand. I was getting 100,000 views on my Snapchat. So, and with something like Snapchat that's that engaged, that's a huge push. Like there's a lot of YouTube videos that like have the right algorithm and 100,000 people are served up this video so they watch it, but it doesn't really impact them. Like Snapchat, this is 100,000 people that have typed in my name, made sure they spelled it right, and then were curious and got my stories every day. And it felt more like a personalized one-to-one connection. Like, when you, especially early days Snapchat, when you opened a Snap, that was like your friend texting you almost. Like imagine if you got a Snapchat from, for me, like Tony Hawk, it's like, what the heck? He just like, that's insane. Like I did have a couple celebrities snap me back in the day, and it felt so much cooler than even someone tweeting at you just because it was so personal. So that was really interesting. But from there, it was the engagement factor of like when, if you see random article online or YouTube video, like go watch this movie, it's cool. It's kind of good. But if your friend texts you and says, go see this movie, man, it was awesome.
It's genuine.
Yes, exactly. And that's what Snapchat had. So I remember some of the first campaigns I did, I would launch Snapchat accounts for brands. And let's say I had 110,000 views on my story. These are pretty realistic numbers. 34,000 people would go follow that brand. And after working with me for one day, they'd have 34,000 new followers on their Snapchat account. So that 33% engagement, I don't think, even in the early days of any platform, I don't think you could get that. That's why Snapchat was phenomenal. And it was headed in such a good direction, is because that engagement was insane. I was, doing campaigns with big Viners and YouTubers that had millions and millions. Like Viners had 8 million followers, and we'd both do a call to action, and my 100,000 Snapchat army would crush the 7 million Vine army just because it was a real relationship.
That's awesome. So the funny thing is, I mean, this is crazy. The first brand that you partner with is one of the largest brands in the world, Disney.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's not like you started with some, mom and pop shop and kind of worked your way up. I mean, you started with the behemoth that was Disney. So how'd that first brand partnership work out?
It's really interesting. So, I mean, it was definitely a cool learning experience for me because I wanted to. No one had done a brand relationship on Snapchat. At that time, it was still very much viewed as like a sexting app, and it was hard to shake that because
that was tough.
The news places like grabbed it and they just said like, this is what this is, and we're gonna write stories about it because that's what's trending right now. And so it really got a rap for that. But I wanted to like kind of break that and work with brands because I knew that engagement was there and that call to action was there. So I hit up all these smaller brands that seemed like they had like taken risks on social media, and I was trying to just hustle any sort of like foot in the door to just like show an example of how brands could work on Snapchat. Everyone was saying no. And then one day I just had this epiphany, like, dude, maybe you just got to stop chasing like the low hanging fruit and just go for like exactly what you want. So I hit up Red Bull, Taco Bell, Disney, all within like one day. And I'm like, I'm going for the big boys. And it turns out the big boys were the ones that bit. Like Disney was the first to say, let's go. Then from there it was Red Bull and then Taco Bell all within 1 month. Wow. And I was like, whoa, I was doing this wrong. I was trying to get to young businesses that they never dare like step outside the box necessarily because they're just trying to follow the big boys. But the big boys are like, yeah, we need to like mold the way social's done. So they did take the risk. And then once Disney took a risk on Snapchat, it kind of like, oh, wait, this isn't a sexting app. Like Disney's using it. And it really just set everything in motion. And yeah, I think I did probably the first 4 or 5 Snapchat brand deals ever were between me and those different companies. Wow. And then it became more common, and then people did it for 2 years and then it kind of disappeared.
And sorry to get too granular, but when it comes to reaching out to Disney for that first time, is it just like a cold email to the VP of social and saying, hey, this is who I am and this is why I'm important,
I mean,
and here's my following?
I think I did it in a unique way. Like the last thing you want to do is just cold email someone. I mean, I get tons of emails and it's just hard to care if you don't have a connection. So I made sure to get to know them, engage with their Twitter accounts for a while, kind of like made a bunch of Disney Snapchats like me with Lion King and everything else. And would like have my buddies tag the guy in the account like, oh, check this out. This is Disney. This is cool. And just like build that relationship. So it felt a little bit warmer. And then when I approached him on Twitter, it was like, cool. I've recognized this guy. I've seen him all over. People have been tagging me like, who is this guy? And then they kind of, so I guess with that, it's like everything you do needs to be strategic. Like sometimes people think if you just do it and you work hard enough, it's going to work. You could cold call 100 people and it might not ever work, or you could strategically get in front of 3 people and have it work. So I think that's
the entrepreneur in you for sure. Because I think just trying to find a way to strategically or tweak it, or how can I make a relationship with this person? So the fact that you had your friend say like, "Hey, this Shonduras guy is really balling. You guys should work with him." That's a brilliant way to go about it. So I know talking with you at Social Media Marketing World out here in San Diego when we met, and you just mentioned a little bit earlier about Snapchat now as we sit here in 2018. How do you describe the current state of Snapchat after being there from the
current state of Snapchat is very much like rock on the tip of a mountain ready to roll one way or the other at full speed. I think Snapchat has been ramping, and they almost couldn't fail because they built such an amazing product. The engagement was there. It was like nothing no one had ever seen, and it fit so well into society, and it was real. I think people were so sick of curated content, beautiful Instagram photos of like toast and avocado and beautiful YouTube videos filmed in slow motion. It's like the world was ready for a real social media platform that's just like, what you snap to your friends kind of thing. And so they just built this amazing product, built this amazing community, and they almost couldn't fail for 2 or 3 years. But then other people came in and started doing things that I was recommending to Snapchat. Like, hey, I got to be able to like create amazing content and upload it. Like, let's have a creator and a brand feature. We got to be able to tag people or else brands aren't going to want to work with you. Creators aren't going to want to work with you. Like, and they just kind of played hardball, and they just said, we're not a creator platform. We are a social media app. We're a messaging tool. I think they have an identity problem where they're like, we're a messaging tool. We don't want to.
And we've talked about it a lot on this show. They've called themselves a camera company.
Yeah, that's their identity crisis coming out again. Like, I think they're trying. They were successful because they did social media different. And I think they should have taken that win and then done things correctly. But I think they're like, well, we did things different in one, so let's continue doing it different. We don't care about creators. We don't care about brands. We're just going to be a cool hipster app. And it's like, all right, that mentality like gets you somewhere, but it can only get you so far. You know what I mean? Like rock stars are all rebellious and crazy, but once they reach the line of like not even showing up to their concerts or going on stage drunk, that's like, okay, you've gone too far. You're too rebellious and you're washed up now. And I think, I just compared Snapchat to a rock star, and I'm just going to roll with it. Tweet that everywhere.
I love it. And then, Zuckerberg comes up, and he originally offered Evan $3 billion, and Evan says no. But then he comes back and says, well, cool, I'm going to create Instagram stories, which I'm interested to hear your take on that. But there really was never a counterpunch to that. And I think a lot of people, even you would probably admit, like, Instagram pretty much stole exactly what Snapchat was all about.
Yeah.
But it's tough. I don't know if you thought there could have been a counterpunch there or not, but Zuckerberg kind of
They definitely did. Like Instagram came out, and originally it was very similar to Snapchat, but they were still missing a lot of interesting things. And Snapchat had a lot of leverage on them, like with filters and other things. But again, Snapchat just missed out on some big opportunities. So, I mean, let's get off the past and talk about right now. Where's Snapchat at right now? They have this opportunity where they have some amazing technologies. They're getting into AR. You can tag people now. You can upload now. Like they've finally got to the point where this platform is incredible. But at the same time, is it too late? You know what I mean? Like Instagram's there as well, and Facebook's now doing stories, and Excel's probably doing stories. Like everything out there probably has a stories feature at this moment. So yes, Snapchat invented this, but they need to do something now that gets them above the rest of the competition. And they're right at that peak where they're either going to start to fall or they're going to go the other way and really succeed and take off again. But this is kind of their last chance. I know a lot of creators are frustrated with YouTube, and Musical.ly slowed down, but then Twitch is picking up. Like we're at this big shift of platforms right now. And I think Snapchat's right in the middle, and it's either going to take off and succeed or they're just going to keep fizzling. So I would say in the next 6 months to a year, Snapchat will do one or the other in an extreme way.
Yeah, and I think I'm with you, man. And I think I've been preaching it on this show for months now. Like, there's a huge opening for either a brand new social media platform or a Snap or a Twitter with everything that's going on with Facebook right now.
Right.
And that organic engagement completely going away. Brands are really upset by that, and they want to move and they want to shift, but there's nowhere right now to really do what Sean McBride did and say, hey, I'm going to go on Snapchat. I'm going to be an early adopter. I'm going to capitalize on this engagement. There's nowhere really to go there now. And I wonder who you think may step to the plate, or if there's any other social apps that you think maybe can take advantage of that.
The thing about a platform is there's a lot of people that try and make a platform that's another platform but better. And that will never work. You're never going to make Instagram, but you can do this, or Twitter, but you can have more words, or it's like YouTube, but you can do vertical videos. Like you're never going to recreate a platform. Well, I guess Instagram kind of did it with Snapchat, but if you're Zuckerberg, you can do it. But what the world needs is, the reason Snapchat works so well is it was something completely new. It was raw, real content. It was fast paced. It was whatever. So I think the next platform needs to be something completely unique and not a variation of something we already use. That being said, I think Twitch has done a really good job. Gaming's blowing up. We're seeing a huge culture shift in mainstream meeting gaming. And that's kind of colliding. Drake meets Ninja. Just the other day, I was having DMs with a professional basketball player to stream video games together. It's like me, a content creator / gamer, hanging out with a professional basketball player. Like, and we're going to play games together. Like, that marriage is something very interesting, and it's shifting culture. And Twitch is really playing into it. So I think Twitch has a really big future as being a next big platform. They're starting to do original content as well, similar to YouTube.
Yeah. How would you describe the current state of the influencer market as we sit here today?
It's been Wild West for a ton of years, but I think it's finally shifting and everything's settling and getting in its place. And influencers that have huge followings, but they're not responsible and they don't work with brands to make them the hero, and they don't put the effort in on their side, I think even though they have huge numbers, they'll always be successful and find deals, because there are people and companies that are just looking for that ROI kind of thing. But I think more and more the influencers that are running their platforms, running their businesses like a actual business, like those guys are starting to come forth, and the people that want to work with brands and the people that are working on their own and not just like, hey, here's an MCN and they'll get me deals and I go do whatever crazy thing I want. I think those guys are starting to rise. And so I think where it was Wild West and everyone was doing everything, I think we're starting to see that the responsible influencers are succeeding and the irresponsible ones are kind of starting to struggle a little bit, even if they have huge numbers.
I really enjoyed your talk at Social Media Marketing World because you really talked about being genuine with your audience and making sure brand partnerships make sense. So with that being said, what bothers you most about what you see out in space by influencers, and maybe what brands spending a lot of money, in your opinion, just aren't getting what they're bang for their buck?
Yeah, I think we're doing a good job at shifting away from this, and most people are conscious of it, but there still is that stigma of like, okay, how many followers do they have kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, perfect example was those Snapchat days. I actually have like a deck built out that I would share with brands at that time, but it's like, look, my 100,000 Snapchat army that was very engaged with me and my content was very high end, and I put the brand as the hero. It's none of this cool content like Vine. It seemed very much like good content, ad, back to good content. And then during that ad, you'd read the comments in Vine. It was just like half the comments were like, sell out, loser, I hate this. And the other half were little kids being like, oh, this is their job. Just ignore it. Like, they have to do this. And it's like, you don't want either of them. You know what I mean? Like, you want someone to really understand the story. And I think that's what's changing, and that's what I like, and that's what is the difference in influencer marketing right now, is when you make the brand the hero and really do that versus just like put a brand deal out there and here's my numbers to prove it. My 100,000 outbeat 8 million just because they were engaged. So I think people are looking for the right people to work with.
So if you were consulting for, the VP of digital at some of these larger Fortune 500 brands, what's your main advice if they're going to go into the influencer market? What are you looking for? What do they got to make sure they do? Like, what's that checklist to make sure that it works?
I mean, there's so much to say right there, but I actually did consulted with Viacom last year. And so that's MTV.
And we talked a little bit about when we met too. Casey Neistat is like Samsung's like CMO essentially.
Casey's like running some digital for Samsung. I've run digital with Taco Bell. I've done it with Viacom. That would be my advice, is like, I can't sit here and just give you all these like
hire me.
Yeah, exactly.
Hire Shaun,
But that is the advice, is like, you can't have an old dude who's been around the block with business, who's smart and he has a college degree. He can't be talking to young audiences using social media. Like, he just doesn't understand. It's just a different culture. And so if you guys really want to have a successful, engaged campaign, you need to have an influencer to help you run that. And that's where I think the responsible influencers are starting to have these opportunities come towards them. And the brands that are embracing influencers and working with them are seeing a lot of success in their campaigns. But every now and again, I'll still get that email from a huge company that seems like they're so big, almighty, smart, and their social media campaign is just so garbage. It's like, you have to use these 5 hashtags in your tweet, and it's like, the second I tweet with 5 hashtags, everyone's going to ignore it, and they're going to hate you and me. Like, this is a waste of both our time. Like, let's not do it. But they still think it's good because they want to get their hashtags trending. And it's like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? Like, they need to step back and really think about it.
So for you personally, because you've done a ton of these, what in your opinion, because I think this would be good like as a case study, what was your favorite campaign or your most successful campaign, and how to get laid out?
Oh, shoot. There's so many of them.
I think you mentioned, too, when we met, too, I mean, there was actually a free campaign where they literally just gave you, like, a free sled. Yeah. And you had that was just a cool moment, too.
Yeah. So I think the campaigns that really work, and it's hard because these are such, like stereotypical answers, but it's like, when you meet in the middle, when it feels like a win-win, when a brand is willing to work with me and they give me creative control and, like, let me kind of design things a little bit, then it feels more like a win. But that's also hard because a huge portion of social media influencers are young and very famous, and they don't necessarily know the strategy of how they got there. They just kind of hit the algorithm right or had the right friends or whatever. So, like, brands need to be aware that they can't give the influencer too much control, or else maybe they won't get what they want out of it. But they also can't fully control it and tell you to tweet 5 different hashtags. And I think the safety zone there is either finding an influencer that can help facilitate the deal, or an agency that gets it. Not one of these, big MCNs that has 1 million employees, but find that's actually why we built Space Station Integrations, is so there could be a middleman to facilitate between the brand and the influencer that wasn't a big corporation. It's literally 3 dudes sitting in my warehouse right now who are just coming up with creative ideas and figuring out how they can best work together that feels natural.
I love it. One thing, it may just be me, I was kind of geeking out about, and I asked you about as well in person, but the ending terms, like the analytics or the deck that you present, and I'm sure not all brands really request that, but being an owner of a social media marketing agency, I think our clients always want to know ROI. Yeah. They always want to know, was this money spent in the best way possible? So how have you kind of showing Disney and showing these big brands like, hey man, this worked and we did well.
Yeah. So, I mean, brands love getting those analytics and reports, but a lot of times if they're just working with an influencer doesn't do that. So when I was doing my own deals as an influencer, I would put everything into a Dropbox and use screenshots of fans and show them my metrics and do all this stuff. So when it was over, I kind of delivered this beautiful packet of like, here's all this success. And they're just like, whoa, we want to work with you again. You guys as an agency.
And that's how you ran it as a business.
Yeah. And that's how Shonduras became like, oh, he's good to work with. You guys as an agency or Space Station Gaming, like it's the same thing. If you can deliver that and show that it worked, that's when it really matters. But again, the brand has to understand that, I mean, depending on what their initiatives is, whether it's brand awareness or driving sales or viewership or whatever, that's important. But there's also wins outside of just the ROI. Like, was the content good? Did it get in front of the right people? And did the audience engage with it? You know what I mean? So I think those are kind of like all the things that you need to check off the list, which by the way, Snapchat has analytics now. So awesome feature, helpful. Just 3 years too late, maybe.
So you mentioned Snapchat's kind of teetering on that edge of either going left or right. For the Shonduras brand, and I know you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram a lot as well. Where are you focusing your time and energy? Where do you think the undervalued attention is right now across all these different platforms?
Gaming, 100%. Obviously, that's my biased answer. And it's not biased in the sense of like, that's what I'm doing, so that's what I'm saying. It's like, that's where I went because I personally saw it blowing up. So I chose to build a business in the gaming space, and that's where we started the esports organization of Space Station Gaming. And I'll tell you, it's been around for 8 months, and the business has exploded. We have professionals all over the world. We have 12 professional teams with over 45 professional players, and they're winning us money, and we're doing brand deals and sponsorships with them, and we're doing brand deals with them. It's basically like, I mean, you know, an agency that works with influencers, we have 45 gaming influencers that there's a ton of opportunities endemically in gaming, but also I'm doing something new in the gaming space that hasn't really been done as much, where it's like, you know, big brands that haven't played in gaming, like the Samsungs, the Taco Bells or whatever, like maybe they've dabbled in a little bit. It's like they trust the Shonduras brand, and I'm in gaming, so we're kind of like bringing them into it. And with Space Station Gaming, we're seeing sponsors now that are coming in like Uber Eats or something like that, isn't necessarily like a headphone, a keyboard, a mouse, a video game controller. It's like, this is a non-endemic sponsor coming in, and I think that's why you see gaming is blowing up. Everyone's hopping on the bandwagon.
Yeah, and it seems like you're really smart about, you know, chasing whatever is. I mean, I want to say e-gaming's in the infant stages, but it's still pretty much kind of sitting there in the depths where it's going to explode at some point.
So I'll tell you exactly where it is, just out of curiosity, because like I didn't really understand it. Everyone knows that gaming and streaming and esports is been around for a long time, and it's a big thing and it's blowing up. But what happened is it's been around for 10 plus years, really popular the past 5 plus years. But last year, 2017, again, right place, right time, I kind of identified that it was happening, built this thing, and it was right then that all the esports side of it, the professional teams, and because that's kind of the backbone, right? Like sports is a huge industry that does multi-billions, but the backbone to that is the professional leagues, right? That's where gaming and esports is. Like all streamers and everything, it all goes back to the competitive scene. And the competitive scene franchised last year, meaning the developers of the games started supporting the teams so they could support their players more, and then the players started promoting the games more, and this ecosystem was built. It's like the NBA pays a team who pays their players, who it's this ecosystem. Before that, gaming was just left field. Like, you might get invited to this tournament, maybe you can get a sponsor for this, maybe if you lose, I don't know if you have money anymore. It was very like, it was like a risk. Last year, everything franchised. There's now leagues. League of Legends, $13 million to own a team. Overwatch, $20 million to own a team. And that makes it an investment, so you're getting the right people in there, but also makes it safe because they know, you know, if I'm a brand and I want to get into esports, I am safe with this team for the next 3 to 5 years because they're franchised. They'll be in the league. They're going to be broadcast on television. That all just happened last year, and since then it has been full speed. So that's where I say gaming is about to blow up.
That's it finally became a win-win-win for everybody because everybody's kind of benefited from it.
And I don't know if mainstream's really picked up on that yet. They're like, oh yeah, esports, it's continually getting better, but there was this huge important shift that happened last year, and since then it's just been 100 miles an hour.
No, that's and you look at the NBA. They just launched the NBA 2K League, and they held their first ever draft. And
it was the real
Shaq
deal.
has a team, and Robert Kraft now has a team. And do you think it's going to be as big, as mainstream as a maybe not an NBA, NFL, but maybe an MLS, like, those type of rights deals? Do you think mainstream it can get to that point?
Yeah, it definitely is going to. And it's doing two things. So one, it's opening up a new demographic for gaming, because gaming originally in the past couple of years, it's been very like, you're a nerd, you like watching the fighting games and the MOBAs and the first person shooters, and like you're into that. Now bringing NBA 2K and the NBA into this, you're bringing a new demographic of people who like sports and jocks and mainstream guys. And like, I could watch NBA 2K with my dad and he gets what's going on, versus like a video game. He's just like potions, magic, like what? I don't get it. So that's opening up a new demographic for gaming, and it's exploding. But as far as like, will these esports ever get as big as, like you said, an NBA or whatever? I mean, you're like, I don't know about an NBA or an NFL, but maybe an MLS. The answer is it already has gotten a lot bigger, because the not holistically, but
Right.
League of Legends, their championship the past couple of years, about 3 years ago, it blew baseball out of the water. Now baseball's in the dust. Last year, Game 7 of the NBA Finals, like the final game, like winner takes
Yep.
all right here,
Yep.
had lower viewership than the League of Legends Finals. So
Interesting.
technically, the most important NBA
Yeah.
game played last year got less viewership than the most important esport game played last year.
Wow, that's
So,
big.
yeah, there's a
I
little
think
bit of a shift.
And I think that's the thing with digital. A lot of these Fortune 500s don't yet get it, and
Yeah.
they're still spending $250 billion in television linear advertisement. But not only on the social platforms with digital marketing, but also with e-gaming. Once they start to get it and the money starts to flow down,
Right.
that's when I think it goes, it goes crazy. So when it comes to, original content, Snapchat's done this with Discover. Now the ESPNs of the world have done, SportsCenter on Snapchat. As far as brands go, what original content have you seen work, whether it be on Instagram or Snapchat, that you think a larger brand like that is doing a pretty good job?
Things that involve the audience, getting, fans involved, and doing stuff that it's not just about me, it's about us as a community, the YouTubers audience, the Twitch streamers audience. I mean, that's a pretty simple answer, but I really believe that is the answer. So many people just plan around the brand and the hashtags and like what makes their product look good. But if you really involve the community that you're trying to tap into, that's where you get the win.
And I think what I respect a lot about you is you had this amazing, kind of influencer career, but you've doubled down on that with the gaming company and representing influencers. How important is that? Because I think there's so many people, like you mentioned, when Vine went away, a lot of careers ended that were relying on a lot of money per month.
Right.
So how do you diversify your audience and where your kind of your portfolio is, if you will, when it comes to all these different moving parts?
Yeah, exactly what you said. It's influence and social media is amazing, but had to swing from Snapchat over to YouTube, and from YouTube over to consulting to gaming, and now this integrations business. You just have to keep diversifying, because you never really know. And my buddy Casey Neistat actually said it best. It's like when he was slowing down on daily vlogs and doing the new stuff with CNN, and then like, he's constantly evolving his career. He's like, you're swinging through a jungle on vines. When you're at your peak swing of the vine, you got to grab to the next one. You can't wait till the vine starts swinging back and slowing down, then be like, oh, I'm going to try and jump. Then it's a harder transition. And so when I transitioned from Snapchat to YouTube, I was at the peak. I was working with brands. I was getting the highest numbers I had ever seen. It was just amazing. But at that time, it's when I had to transition to YouTube so it could be successful. And then when I was peaked at YouTube, that's when I had to transition to more of a business kind of mindset, because Shonduras isn't scalable. If I wanted to be successful as Shonduras, I have to make a video, work with a brand. Like, how do I scale that so it's long term? I can't. I don't want to not do that business, but I don't want that to be my only focus. So when I'm at my peak as Shonduras as an influencer, I branch into business Shonduras, and I still make YouTube videos. They get a lot less views and everything, but now it's more just about what I want to film and the content that I want to give my fans. And I'm not, spending my whole day trying to make a crazy slime video, backflip, whatever. It's just like, I'm going to film the content I want to film, and then I'm going to hustle these other like businesses that are more scalable. Yeah.
That's so cool. And what percentage of the community, if there is an influencer community that you would call it that, I guess believes in that notion or practices that? Because I think that's the name of the game if you want to have a sustained career in this industry and social overall. But it seems like you and Casey and these different guys have understood to to jump and see the writing on the wall and kind of evolve and tweak it and do all those things?
So what was the question? It was a long question, and
Sorry,
I have
the
ADD.
question: how many people do you think get it? Because I think you get it. Casey Neistat gets it.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
The grass is not always going to be as green as it is on Snapchat. I got to move. I got to adjust.
Like I said earlier, social media used to be Wild West, and it was just everyone was trying to get tons of followers, and it worked for a really long time. But I think the influencers that get it now and are less focused on just numbers and clickbait and are, broadening their businesses and also speaking directly towards their fans and working with brands that they want to work with, not just doing download this app every other day to make money. I think those are the guys that are making a difference. And I mean, I could name drop people that I think are doing it well, but realistically, it's just people that are thinking beyond just the content. The content has to be there, but what is scalable? I think if you can get your business to scale, so it's not just on you as an influencer to make the money, if you can scale that and build a long-term business where you can slow down and not be in the office and still make money, that's when it's successful, but you have to do it right. If you have an amazing YouTube channel and you're creating this cool content, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm burnt out, I'm going to have someone else create the content for me, you've just like ruined your YouTube channel. Like everyone loves you.
Yeah.
Imagine like The Office season 3 and all the characters are different. I mean, Home Alone did it, and it's just like different cast. It feels weird. There's Land Before Time 27. It's like once you lose those original characters, it's weird.
Yeah, I think the OC season 4. I think they lost Jason Schwartz and it all went down.
Yeah, it went downhill.
Where do you get your inspiration?
Man, realistically, like I don't watch that much YouTube because I don't want to just be like every now and again I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea or something, but I don't want to be chasing trends and I don't want to be taking other people's ideas. I always want to have my own ideas because there's times I even come up with awesome ideas and I do it and someone's like, oh, someone else did that a month ago, and I was like, well, crap, like that was legitimately my idea. Sorry, we had the same idea. But my inspiration, I think, comes from my own personal life, like what I would want to do. Like when I was a little kid, I wanted to eat cereal for every meal, and my parents were like, oh, you can't, like you got to grow up and eat meals. And it's like, no, I'm going to keep eating cereal for every meal. And like, I want to skateboard every day, and I want to do one cool thing every day to make it the best day ever instead of always just being in an office or being at home. And so that's where the inspiration comes for my content. It's like, what do I want to do so that my life seems like the best life ever?
I love it, man.
Kind of a corny answer, but I'll stick with it.
No, I love it. I love it. I'll kind of leave you with this question. I guess I'll get a little deep on you, but when it comes to, I know you've consulted and things like that. If there's one thing that you think brands and people that are running these large digital feeds, if they can focus on or they can make sure they're just looking at every day, what is that kind of one thing that you feel like people just miss out on or don't pay enough attention to that can make sure they stay successful in this ever-changing landscape?
Yeah, man. 100% easy answer is relationships. I think so many people, especially in the digital space, it's growing so fast. There's so many opportunities on social media and digital platforms and new platforms. Esports is emerging. I would have to say like everything boils down to my relationships. The relationships I built in Snapchat helped me launch my YouTube. The relationships I built in my YouTube helped me launch integrations and the gaming stuff. And it's the real relationships, not the fake smile, handshake, hey, what's up? It's like if you actually over deliver and give someone value, if the way you treat someone when they can't do anything for you goes a long ways. There's so many people I've become friends with over the years that they didn't have anything to give me right then, but I gave what I could to them and built a real relationship, and it always comes back around. There's people that used to be interns that I worked with, and now they're like heads of companies, and it's like, dang, you went a long way in 4 years, and I'm glad we're friends.
It's so funny you just said that because I was going to counter that with like, there's literally been in my business interns that we just treated very respectfully. And obviously we're all humans and we're very nice. And they end up being the director of digital at a different company in 3 years and they hire us. And,
we're working on it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think relationships, and it's amazing human contact and shaking hands and being genuine with people, not only in digital, but obviously in life in general. It seems like people don't understand that enough. So
100%.
Definitely appreciate that. Well, dude, I know it's a Friday. I know you have a big weekend ahead of you and everything. But really appreciate your time, man. You definitely dropped a lot of knowledge. I think people got a lot of value seeing it from your side of things in terms of being the influencer and working with brands, man. I think it's been great, so I appreciate it.
Cool, man. Where can I see all this? Like, give me the shout out. Like, where's this gonna live, and how can I see it?
I appreciate it. Yeah, Business of Social. So we'll send you all the links. There's going to be a video. There's going to be an audio version. We'll send you Bitly links and all that stuff. So it's super easy for you, man.
Amazing. So. Well, thanks for having me on, and I'll talk to everyone later.
Good stuff. Thanks, Shaun. Appreciate it, buddy.
Bye.
All right. Later on. All right, there he is, Shonduras. Like I said, I was able to meet him at Social Media Marketing World, believe it or not, out here in San Diego. And after he got off stage, was able to kind of just talk shop a little bit when it came to influencers and brands. And again, owning STN Digital and being a social media marketing agency, always our clients are always worried about ROI, but also how can they capitalize on some of those new platforms and how can they use influencers the right way. So I think some of the stuff that Shaun dropped in terms of the knowledge on how to use influencers the right way, how to be genuine with the audience, and making sure that people understand that it's kind of no longer the wild west, and people need to start presenting themselves in more of a business route. So he's a very smart dude. He was able to capitalize on Snapchat. He's now kind of shifted his gears. He started a couple companies, but at the same time, he's now moving into e-gaming, which is kind of the next frontier that we all see in digital. And I think right now, if you're trying to get in as a brand, that's going to be something where you can really get the most bang for your buck before the Fortune 5s understand that that's a lot of eyeballs for a lot less money than linear right now. So as always, you can always reach out to me. Anything I can do to help. Me and Shaun just talked about relationship building and always being friendly with everybody. I really strongly believe that. So if you ever need anything or want to see some case studies or I can provide any help for you, feel free to email me. I check every single email and respond as well. David@stn.digital. I'm also on Twitter @DavidJBrickley. Shout out to Sam Howard, producers David Ferker, Auntie Lightning on the keys. It's another edition of the Business of Social podcast.